Hi there, my name is David. I'm going to be talking to you about the new Star Wars film The Force Awakens, which is the 7th installment in the beloved franchise which was started by George Lucas. If anything, I am happy that this film will introduce new viewers to the original trilogy, and hopefully they are smart enough to figure it all out, that the new Abrams film is a weak imitation of a highly original science fiction film. Now, there are some major spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen the film, then you probably aren't going to want to watch this video. That is, until after you've seen the film. Or perhaps you were like me, not intending to watch the film, but still want to hear some of the negative criticism first before screening the film. This was my original intent, but I gave in to the hype and saw the film a few days after it was released. What I saw in that theater was a major disappointment. I wanted to like this film, I really did. What follows is what I believe to be some problems with the film. Some of them are big, and some are small. Let's begin, shall we? Vader worship by Kylo Ren. He feels conflicted by the pull of the light. He pleads with a warped mask of Vader. Show me the power of darkness. Show me. I will finish what you started. Finish what you started? Why? Vader repented at the end of Return of the Jedi. Some say the prequels were a stab at the original trilogy. Well, if that's true, then this is much worse. It's almost a complete disavowment of what Lucas was saying about the relationship between the father and son, namely Anakin Skywalker and Luke. The son redeems the father.
Now, go, my son. Leave me.
No, you're coming with me. I'll not leave you here. I've got to save you.
You already have. Look, you were right. You were right about me.
I'm not a psychologist, I'm just a journalist, but it does seem to me that the scenes of Luke and his father, there's something of George Lucas in there. Some memory trace there.
Oh, yeah.
Father.
No matter how you write from your own emotions and your own feelings. There's two sides to the Redeemer motif that I've got in the Star Wars films, which is that ultimately Vader is redeemed by his children, and especially having children. I believe that. I believe that you are redeemed by your children.
Return of the Jedi was about bringing his father back into the good side. In The Empire Strikes Back, while Yoda is training Luke on Dagobah, Luke asks Yoda if the dark side is stronger. Yoda replies no.
Is the dark side stronger?
No.
Well, according to The Force Awakens, apparently the dark side is stronger. And this is another point. If the Rebel Alliance defeated the Empire and the Emperor at the end of Return of the Jedi, then what does this say about the Rebels? That a new Empire/dark side will keep coming back over and over again? This is all ludicrous, of course, but there it is. The Empire doesn't strike back because they never left, and they're never going to. This is a new cash cow for Disney, and they're going to milk it until there is nothing left. You would have thought that Disney would have had more respect for the material like they did with classic fairy tales like Pinocchio, Cinderella, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty. No, they just took out the screenplay for Star Wars, A New Hope, and changed some names around and made things bigger. Now here's a top 10 countdown of how this new film is a completely unoriginal remake of Star Wars, A New Hope by George Lucas. 10. The Force Awakens. The secret plans are in the droid, which is on the desert planet, which ends up in the hands of a wandering nomad who wants to use it to sell its parts, but the droid ends up in the hands of a talented, mechanically inclined aw-shucks farm girl type who happens to be a very good pilot. In A New Hope, there's a secret map in the droid, which is on the desert planet, which ends up in the hands of wandering nomads, the Jawas, who want to use it to sell, but the droid ends up in the hands of a talented, mechanically inclined, aw-shucks farm boy type who happens to be a good pilot. Number 9. In The Force Awakens, we have a stop that ship, blast them moment by the stormtroopers who are after the protagonists, which then get into the quote-unquote garbage Millennium Falcon. In A New Hope, we have the stop that ship, blast them moment by the stormtroopers who are after the protagonists, which then get into the quote-unquote piece of junk Millennium Falcon. Number 8. In the middle of the film, we meet Han Solo and Chewbacca, the captain and his co-pilot of the ship, where we find out that Han Solo did the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. In A New Hope, in the middle of the film, we are introduced to Han Solo and his co-pilot Chewbacca, the captain and co-pilot of the Millennium Falcon, who tells us, or where we learn from Han Solo, that he did the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. Number 7. In The Force Awakens, the droid must be taken to the Resistance hidden base. In A New Hope, the droid must be taken to the Rebel hidden base. Number 6. In The Force Awakens, brief stop off at Creature Cantina, where we meet an odd assortment of characters in space reggae. In A New Hope, we have a brief stop off at the Creature Cantina, where we meet an odd assortment of characters in space jazz. Number 5. In The Force Awakens, Death Star planet wants to blow up the Resistance-friendly planet to prove a point. In A New Hope, we have the Death Star moon who wants to blow up the Rebel-friendly planet to prove a point. Number 4. In The Force Awakens, the droid is taken to the Resistance hideout where they review the secret map. In A New Hope, the droid is taken to the Rebel hideout where they review the secret plans. Number 3. In The Force Awakens, the Death Star planet wants to blow up the not-so-hidden Resistance base, not so hidden because the First Order found out where the Resistance group was by secretly tracking them as they were fleeing. In A New Hope, the Death Star planet wants to blow up the hidden Rebel base, well, not so hidden because the Emperor found out because they secretly tracked the fleeing Rebel group. Number 2. In The Force Awakens, Resistance fighters and X-Wings must go and destroy the Death Star planet, Starkiller Base, where? In the whole thing, of course. In A New Hope, we have Rebel fighters and X-Wings, which must go and destroy the Death Star moon, where? In the whole thing, of course. Number 1. In The Force Awakens, the death of an important Resistance figure by the bad guy sporting black robes with a red flame sword. In A New Hope, we have the death of the important Rebel figure by a bad guy with black robes with a red lightsaber. It amazes me that people love this film and even go so far to say that it is better than A New Hope. Well, of course you like it, because you're really watching a dumbed-down version of Episode 4. But believe it or not, that's not the main gripe I have against the film. There are other problems, such as the Max von Sydow character, Lor San Tekka. This guy played Ming the Merciless in Flash Gordon. He's clearly older than Luke Skywalker, or Mark Hamill, the actor who plays Luke Skywalker. Who is this guy supposed to be, and why is he talking about the Force? Is he a Jedi? And if he is a Jedi, then he's a Jedi who's older than Luke? But Max von Sydow is such a great actor, to have him on screen for just a few seconds seems such a waste. Besides, his story, to me she is always royalty, seems kind of pointless, and no doubt we'll never hear about his character again, which is lame because most of the minor characters in the original trilogy carry a lot of weight. His dialogue is unmemorable in this film, and it only furthers the idea of the unwatchability factor of this film. However, he may be the voice that says "Quiet Girl" as young Rey watches a ship leave her there alone on the planet Jakku, perhaps under his watchful eye, though even if this is the case, I don't think we're likely to hear more about him other than pointing this fact out later in the series. Lor San Tekka states, "Without the Jedi, there can be no balance of the Force. It's the writers of this film that are killing Jedi." But that is small potatoes compared to the part of the film that takes the science out of science fiction, the Starkiller planet. How do you have an ice planet so close to the sun? Guy Smiley on Collider.com made this good point. It's a planet, so it's limited in its range of destruction, right? They can't just move it like they could a space station. How many other planets can it destroy before there's nothing left in its range to threaten or destroy? Or is it magically unlimited in range, sort of like those transporters that eliminated the need for starships in the god-awful second Abrams Trek movie? This point Guy Smiley brings up was the same problem I had with the original 70s version Battlestar Galactica episode called Gun on Ice Planet Zero. I mean, it was a stationary gun. It wasn't like you could aim it anywhere but straight ahead. So all you could really do was stay out of its range. Guy Smiley continues, "And it charges their cannon by draining the power from its sun? They talked about charging the weapon until the sun disappears, didn't they? So are they destroying their own sun? So they're killing themselves along with the rest of their solar system then? Maybe I missed a good explanation of this, or misunderstood it, or maybe JJ just conveniently ignored what killing your sun would do. It just didn't make much sense." This is another good point by Guy Smiley. In the film, it did say until the sun disappears. So how the hell is this thing supposed to be better than the Death Star? At least the Death Star can move, presumably even through hyperspace. Here's what J.J. Abrams said. It is very much, and it's acknowledged as such in the movie, apparently another Death Star. But what it's capable of, how it works, and what the threat is far greater than what the Death Star could have done. Starkiller Base is another step forward, technologically speaking, in terms of power. Yeah, right. And how were they able to recharge the gun so quickly after having shot it the first time? Some other problems with the characters, like the Finn character. What makes him decide to switch sides? In the film he says it was the right thing to do. Well, how does Finn decide what is right or wrong? This seems to me an assumptive approach taken by the film, concluding that the audience will view the right thing to do as a morally correct decision. But this seems to be oversimplistic, because think about it. Finn has some type of freak-out moment when a fellow stormtrooper dies and places his bloody fingerprints all over Finn's helmet. But then, not but a few moments later, Finn is killing stormtroopers left and right. So in light of this context, Finn's right thing to do seems to be very selfish, and this is not a very likable trait. The Rey character. Where did she learn to use the Force like that? She instinctively knows to telekinetically get the lightsaber in the Jedi mind trick. Luke didn't know how to do this. He had to be taught by Obi-Wan and Yoda. And where did she learn to use a lightsaber? How did Finn know how to use it, for that matter? And where did she learn to speak droid? In no film can anyone understand Astro Droid bleeps except C-3PO. In the original films, when a character like Anakin or Luke are spoken to by R2-D2, they either have a computer translation, or the replies they are given are so ambiguous that you know that they understood R2-D2 enough by the context, but it wasn't specific language like, "This droid says that you're wearing the jacket of his master." Whoa there, how the heck did you know that, little lady? You go to droid school? Another problem. The First Order ship blots out the planet in the beginning of the film. This is just bad filmmaking, in my opinion. It's like watching a film and someone with a big head sits in front of you blocking your view. Yeah, I get it. The ship is big. It's like things have to be bigger to be more effective and advance in this Abrams Star Wars. There's a new word I'm making that describes this: Lucas envy. This new film is an impotent work which has to compensate for this disparity. The Kylo Ren character, conflicted by the light side, really, after he killed all those innocent people on Jakku. Let's just say that he does have a conscience, and he's inwardly conflicted by these moral dilemmas. Then the film did a bad job of portraying him as a villain. If anything, he seems like a spoiled teenage brat. Darth Maul would make light work of this guy with a butter knife. And General Hux, the angry ginger, he gets the bad acting moment of the year, in my opinion. Seriously, this First Order is a bit of a joke. By the way, doesn't this guy, General Hux, seem like Pilot from Life of Brian when he gives his End of the Republic speech?
People of Jerusalem, Rome is your friend. People of Jerusalem, Rome is your friend.
The John Williams score. I'm a big John Williams fan, and I love the soundtracks to the original trilogy. They are musically brilliant arrangements and have many distinct melodies which complement the characters and situations throughout. The leitmotif. However, after listening to this new soundtrack, I couldn't find any melodies or themes I could whistle to later. Rey's theme, which is the closest we come to that, seems out of place, almost classical. It is logical to expect that any sequels after Return of the Jedi would have been about a fledgling republic reinstituted from the old one against a group of insurgents perhaps loyal to the Empire. But what we have in The Force Awakens is a complete slap in the face, in my opinion. Why? Because it diminishes the Rebel Alliance. Because The Force Awakens is saying the Rebels weren't good enough to beat the Empire, and so the new Rebels, that is the Resistance, have to keep fighting. So what if the Resistance beats Supreme Leader Snoke? They're just going to have to do it all over again, because apparently these Sith Lords are everywhere to be found, just ready to step in and lead this First Order/Empire. I guess the Force wasn't with Luke, Leia, or Han Solo. They weren't strong enough to end the Empire and these Sith usurpers. Did the rebels have such a hard time restoring the Republic? Han Solo goes back to being a smuggler. Really, this great general of the rebellion, backsliding to be a smuggler? You've got to be kidding me. Luke, going into hiding like Yoda. With Yoda, at least it made sense. It almost seemed strategic. Obi-Wan watching over Luke with Yoda watching from far away. To be honest with you, I think that this is where they're going with The Force Awakens too, which is no surprise since they have no originality. But my point is, Luke wouldn't have run away like a little girl. That's not Luke. Was he such a failure he had to go hide himself? And why didn't Leia train in the Force? There were some things I liked about the film. I like the idea of a female Jedi as the main protagonist. I think it seemed logical also to assume Luke would have had Jedi children, one of which would have been a girl. There was one quote I liked in the entire film: "That's not how the Force works." Other than that, I think this film has zero rewatchability and has no quotability. This film is not worth watching again, and you can't quote it. I can't tell you how much I can't stand how people say they like this film better than the prequels. I used to rip on Phantom Menace all the time, but Phantom Menace is Citizen Kane compared to this movie, The Force Awakens. The important thing to understand about the original trilogy is that it was a modern myth. It was archetypal. There are important things a true fan should know about approaching the original Star Wars. First is that it is a mixture of things like Wizard of Oz, Akira Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress, Flash Gordon serials, and westerns.
This of the project was in 1973, when George Lucas first began to scribble notes for a film that would draw heavily on the world's myths and legends, but would also dig into the archives of the planet's cinematic history. Influences from his past: Japanese warrior movies, westerns, cliffhanger serials, swashbucklers, all jumbled together in George's notes with all sorts of other genres and themes and techniques. The result was the script for The Adventures of Luke Starkiller, soon to be retitled The Star Wars, and by the time I got to read it, just plain Star Wars.
With that being said, Lucas took these influences and molded them into a science fiction epic, a space opera. Second, Joseph Campbell's work, Hero with a Thousand Faces, plays a crucial importance.
And while he was studying anthropology in particular, he came across this book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, written by Joseph Campbell, which basically takes all the great quest stories, or myths as he calls them, starting with classical times like Ulysses, through the Bible, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, then into the Middle Ages, King Arthur, the lives of the saints, Dante's Inferno. And it takes all these great journey stories from history and distills them down into their common elements.
The Force Awakens, however, plays it safe. It has been said of The Force Awakens that it is the greatest hits of the original trilogy, and I would agree. The prequels have been criticized over and over again. However, even the prequels have a rich landscape, and for all its inadequacies, it's original and very powerful and emulated by the fans. But The Force Awakens, what a joke. It's been about 40 years between The Force Awakens and Return of the Jedi, and you mean to tell me Han Solo never in all that time used Chewbacca's bowcaster, and Luke Skywalker is seen only as a myth? Or that Kylo Ren can use the Force to freeze blaster laser fire in midair, but he can't beat Finn in a lightsaber duel? Why couldn't Kylo just freeze Finn? By the way, frozen blaster laser fire is ridiculous. And what planet got destroyed? We just know they were the government that supports the resistance, and what does that mean? What is the order of the galaxy? In every Star Wars movie, there has been some government in control, whether it is the Republic or the Empire. Remember this?
Rebellion will continue to gain a support in the Imperial Senate.
The Imperial Senate will no longer be of any concern to us. I have just received word that the Emperor has dissolved the Council permanently. The last remnants of the old Republic have been swept away.
Possible. How will the Emperor maintain control without the bureaucracy?
The regional governors now have direct control over their territories. Fear will keep the local systems in line.
To me, The Force Awakens seems to present a kind of wishy-washy balance of power. The First Order kind of rules over here, but not over here. And the stupid premise of a secretive missing piece of data which completes the final puzzle as to where Luke is hiding. Seriously. I don't know. He could be maybe in this empty space you've got on this map. Abrams gets it wrong again. Spock and Uhura, yeah, that happened. Blowing up Vulcan, yup, same guy. I have seen many good reviews coming from people like Kevin Smith. Are these people just being nice? If this film did not have the name Star Wars attached, people would call this a ripoff, and rightfully so. But just because it's Star Wars, it's the coolest thing ever. I encourage you, new Star Wars fan, to watch a few things if you want to do things right. First, watch The Power of Myth. It's a 6-part series with Bill Moyers and Joseph Campbell, filmed at George Lucas's own Skywalker Ranch. Next is to watch a documentary called Star Wars: A Legacy Revealed. It aired on the History Channel, and you can find it on YouTube. It's one of the best pieces I've seen, which explains the mythology of Star Wars. The next is purely optional, but I recommend that you watch George Lucas's American Graffiti and the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which George Lucas also had a big part in production. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you.
We all acknowledged, I think everyone on this crew, and the cast certainly, our love and appreciation for what George Lucas created. But at a certain point, it was incumbent upon all of us to pocket that, put that away, and do the job.
When I first saw Star Wars, it was so hard to relate to what was happening. At the very, I mean, it was so not where I live.